I still remember the sound of everyone laughing. It wasn't because of a joke. They were laughing at me. My own brother had invited me to our family reunion for one reason: to destroy what little dignity I had left. But what happened next is something he never saw coming. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted, subscribe to Family Betrayal, because these stories remind us we're never as alone as we think. And one quick thing before I continue. The faces, photos, and scenes you see in this video are simply visual illustrations to help tell the story. They aren't meant to represent the real people involved. My name is Ethan, and for years I believed blood was thicker than anything. I was wrong. Growing up, my older brother, Jason, always had a way of making me feel like I wasn't enough. If I got an A, he got praised for getting two. If I scored the winning goal, somehow everyone talked about him instead. I kept telling myself it wasn't his fault. Maybe I was just too sensitive. Maybe brothers were supposed to compete. Then life hit me hard. I lost my job during a company downsizing. A few months later, my marriage fell apart. I moved into a tiny apartment and spent nights wondering how everything I'd worked for disappeared so fast. The only person who still called every week was Grandma. She never asked how much money I had. She only asked if I had eaten. One afternoon, Jason called out of nowhere. "Family reunion next Saturday," he said. "Everyone's coming. Grandma really wants you there." His voice sounded unusually friendly. That should have been my first warning. I almost said no. I didn't want relatives whispering about my divorce or my empty bank account. But Grandma had recently turned 82. If she wanted to see me, I couldn't stay away. The reunion was held at our parents' backyard. Cars lined the street. Kids were running across the lawn. The smell of barbecue filled the air. For a brief moment, I thought maybe I'd been worrying for nothing. Grandma hugged me tighter than anyone else did. "There you are," she whispered. "I've been waiting for you." Something about the way she looked at me felt different, almost worried. Jason walked over wearing an expensive watch and a smile that never reached his eyes. "I'm glad you came," he said. "Tonight is going to be unforgettable." At first, I thought he was talking about Grandma's birthday celebration. I had no idea he had spent weeks planning the most humiliating moment of my life, and every single member of our family was about to witness it. Jason kept smiling all evening, but it wasn't the smile of a loving brother. It was the smile of someone waiting for the perfect moment to pull the trigger. I tried to ignore the feeling in my stomach. I stayed close to Grandma, helped my aunt carry food to the tables, and avoided the relatives who loved asking questions about my divorce. Every time I looked up, Jason was watching me. After dinner, he stood and tapped his glass with a spoon. "Can I have everyone's attention?" he said. The conversation stopped. Nearly 40 people turned toward him. "I thought tonight would be a great time to celebrate family," he began. "But I also think family should be honest." Something about those words made my chest tighten. Jason picked up a folder from the table. "My little brother always acted like he was the responsible one," he said with a laugh. "Turns out he's just really good at pretending." He pulled out copies of old bills, court papers from my divorce, and a notice from my former employer. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. "Look at this," he said, waving the papers in the air. "Lost his job, lost his wife, barely paying rent. This is the guy who used to give everyone advice." A few people laughed. Others stared at me with pity. I wanted the ground to open beneath my feet. I stood up and reached for the papers. "Jason, stop." He stepped back before I could grab them. "No," he said loudly. "Everyone deserves to know the truth." I felt every pair of eyes burning into me. My face turned hot. My hands shook so badly I had to hide them behind my back. I wasn't ashamed of losing my job. I was ashamed that my own brother enjoyed watching me suffer. Then he looked straight at me and said the one sentence I'll never forget. "Mom and Dad always wasted their time believing in you." The backyard went completely silent. I looked toward my parents. Neither of them said a word. They just stared at the ground. At that moment, I honestly thought I had lost my entire family. But across the yard, Grandma slowly pushed her chair back. She wasn't crying. She wasn't shaking. She looked at Jason with a calm expression I'd never seen before. Then she said, "You've lied long enough." Every head turned toward her, and in her trembling hands was an old envelope that had been hidden for more than 25 years. Grandma held the envelope so tightly that her knuckles turned white. Nobody spoke. Even the kids stopped running around the yard. Jason let out a nervous laugh. "Grandma, you don't have to do this," he said. She looked him straight in the eyes. "Oh, I do." She slowly opened the envelope and pulled out a stack of faded papers. I recognized my father's handwriting, but I had never seen those documents before. When your grandfather was dying, Grandma said, he asked me to keep these safe until the day this family forgot what honesty meant. She looked at me first. Ethan, you've spent your whole life believing you were the disappointment. That was never true. Then she turned toward Jason. You've spent your whole life taking credit for things that were never yours. The yard was so quiet I could hear the wind moving through the trees. Grandma held up one of the papers. Jason, remember the scholarship everyone celebrated? The one your parents thought you earned? Jason's face lost its color. You didn't earn it. My father slowly stood up. What are you talking about, Mom? Grandma didn't hesitate. Ethan was the one who qualified. Jason found the acceptance letter before Ethan came home from school. He hid it, destroyed it, and convinced everyone Ethan had been rejected. I felt like the air had been knocked out of me. That scholarship could have changed my entire future. Jason shook his head. She's confused. She's old. Before anyone could respond, Grandma reached into the envelope again. I knew one day you'd say that. She pulled out photocopies of the original letter, along with a handwritten confession Jason had written years ago after our grandfather confronted him. Grandpa had made copies before locking the originals away. Grandma handed them to my father. His hands trembled as he read every word. My mother covered her mouth and burst into tears. One by one, my relatives stepped closer, reading the confession in complete silence. Jason kept backing away. I was just a kid, he whispered. Grandma's voice was steady. No, you were old enough to know exactly what you were doing. And today, you tried to steal your brother's dignity all over again. For the first time in my life, nobody was looking at me with pity. They were looking at Jason with disbelief. Then my father folded the confession, looked directly at my brother, and said 5 words that changed our family forever. Leave, right now. Don't come back. Jason froze. He had planned to destroy me in front of everyone. Instead, he had destroyed himself.